The kaleidoscope mirror at Aura Fitness. In the bustling commercial district of Sealis City, there is a studio called Aura Fitness, where women diligently train, hoping to reclaim the svelte figures of their youth. In an era where self-confidence is the ultimate currency, accepting one's natural form has become increasingly difficult. I am the ancient mirror Kian, the large, dignified glass set in the training hall. Every day, I am honored to meet and reflect hundreds of figures, most of which are far from perfectly sculpted. They only seek me out when the threat of bloating looms, subtly scrutinizing their shape. Occasionally, I see young women who are either too thin or too overly muscular. They all believe in the miraculous power of exercise, though few realize that it demands sweat, tears, and, above all, iron patience. Consequently, many, after spending fortunes on designer sportswear, quickly retreat, defeated by laziness, leaving the disease of inertia to triumph gleefully. But the story I wish to tell is about a woman whom I once secretly loved. She was nearly 40. Strange, isn't it, that I would fall for a middle-aged lady when the studio's instructors are young and more glamorous than models. But I am not young either. I was born in the previous century, originally a mirror in the dressing room of the famous Starlight Opera House. When the theatre underwent renovation, I was liquidated and sold to the owner of this fitness center. My silvering has faded to an amber hue and is peeling in small patches. Yet, the ladies still vie to stand before me, sometimes even causing minor battles, not brawls, of course, but fierce twists and powerful kicks that send nearby women jumping in pain. In short, despite my age, I am still highly valued. The first encounter. I clearly remember our first meeting. That day, she walked in unhurriedly, wearing an emerald green tracksuit. The instructors quickly led her to the treadmill, guiding her through the initial routine. I glanced over, astonished to see a pair of legs that were strong, perfectly straight, and long, rivaling any young girl's. For a woman nearing 40, wasn't this extraordinary? I studied her closely and recognized a familiar trait on her beautiful face. Where have I met her? I asked myself, beginning my deduction. Having existed for nearly a quarter of a century and witnessed countless secret conversations, which the speakers thought were safe from a senseless mirror. I had trained myself in judging people by their appearance, and I rarely missed. This woman had a youthful face, a high forehead, and bright, deep-set eyes. She must be in an intellectual or artistic profession, perhaps a critic or an academic. I clung to this theory until I discovered, quite by accident, that I was wrong. She started walking. I marveled at her resilient legs, moving steadily on the belt. This imported incline machine was tough. Many young girls couldn't manage 5 minutes. Yet, she walked for 20 minutes straight. Her oval face was flushed, sweat poured from her, but she did not slow down. I was amused watching the instructors exchange wide-eyed glances. She must be a former marathon runner, they thought, unaware they were mistaken. For some reason, her legs attracted me like a magnet. I rummaged through my memory for a forgotten moment linked to those slender, captivating legs, but in vain. At the end of the session, she approached me and examined me closely. Her gaze settled on the lightning bolt fracture on my forehead, as if a soft light passed through it. Her face suddenly brightened. She gently traced the crack with her finger, smiling vaguely. I watched her in surprise. Her fair, rosy skin was flushed from her face down to her shoulders, rising and falling with her breath. Even the full bust, tightly compressed in her sports bra, felt strangely familiar. While I was still pondering, she emerged from the changing room in her purple-grey overdress, quickly gliding past me toward the door. A man with platinum blonde, wavy hair and tanned skin, handsome as a movie star, was waiting. She smiled, approached him, and looked at that enviable man with profound tenderness. and my memory suddenly ignited. The theatre's shadow. Yes, I had seen them countless times at the Starlight Opera House, where they were both principal dancers. The beautiful, long legs of that girl had once mesmerized me, though I never saw her perform on stage. Whenever I saw her in her dance costume, showcasing her slender legs, I felt as if I too had a heart. Thanh Kim was her stage name, the man was Khánh. Before every performance, they would linger in the dressing room after everyone else had left. The young man would passionately embrace the girl, unaware that I was watching him with blind, helpless jealousy. After their fervent kisses, Thanh Kim would quickly retrieve her lipstick, applying it hastily, while Khánh scrambled for a tissue, blotting the deep red color imprinted on his lips. She would scold him with a long glare. "You ate all my Emperor's Mark lipstick again." They both laughed, not noticing a pair of ferocious eyes watching them from the wardrobe door. Despite my jealousy of Khánh, I worried for them. The moment they left, Mr. Hungluck, the impresario and owner of those murderous eyes, entered, casting a hateful look after them. The impresario, obese and burning with rage, once grabbed Thanh Kim's uncapped lipstick and drew a large X right where Khánh had admired his own handsome reflection. Then he grabbed a greasy, makeup-stained towel and threw it at me, blinding me. When I recovered, he had slammed the door shut and left. I knew the impresario hadn't fired Khánh yet, fearing Thanh Kim would follow him and collapse his entire dance troupe, his main source of income. But watching their daily displays of affection was torture for him. I sensed that day he would make a decision that would heavily impact their fate. When only the two of them remained in the dressing room, Khánh hugged Thanh Kim, kissing her breathless. In that moment, the door burst open. The impresario entered and threw a stack of papers onto the vanity. He glared menacingly. Thanh Kim snatched them up. It was the termination letter for Khánh. Dropping the papers to the floor, Thanh Kim covered her face and sobbed. I forgot to mention the crucial detail. Thanh Kim was the impresario's fiancée. A year prior, in that very dressing room, he had given her a diamond engagement ring worth tens of thousands of dollars. I secretly wished she would remove the ring, place it on the termination papers, and walk away with Khánh. Khánh looked intently at Thanh Kim, tensely awaiting her final decision, but she only wept. Finally, Khánh picked up the papers, turned, and walked out. Thanh Kim stared after him, but her feet remained rooted. What I least expected was that once Khánh was gone, the impresario turned, grabbed Thanh Kim's hair, yanked her up, and began punching and kicking her relentlessly, spouting the foulest language. I was stunned by his savage act but could only watch helplessly. He grabbed Thanh Kim's powder box and hurled it at me. The lightning bolt fracture appeared on my forehead. He stormed out, leaving Thanh Kim kneeling on the floor, covered in bruises. Much later, she stood up, her face streaked with blood and tears. Throwing a coat over her shoulders, she slowly limped out of the room. I never saw Thanh Kim again. I believed she had gone to find Khánh. My faith was rewarded. The Khánh and Thanh Kim of those days are still together. 2 decades have passed, and they have changed drastically, especially Thanh Kim, who has become an elegant lady, sanctuary, and destruction. 3 months later, the fitness studio was upgraded, and my fate was once again determined. Old and antiquated, I surely had no place in a modern city gym. Would I be thrown into the dump? Then, one day, 2 workers came to dismantle me. My heart almost burst with joy. By the cart were Madame Thanh Kim and Mr. Khánh. They had come for me. I would reside in their home, witnessing their peaceful life that would be my joy in old age. Engrossed in this beautiful vision, I only snapped out of it when the cart stopped on a small street. That very evening, under the splendid light of lavender-scented candles in the bedroom, I reluctantly witnessed a night of unparalleled passion. I sensed they were floating on old memories. Forgiveness and jealousy, love and despair. I experienced a flood of conflicting emotions all at once. Suddenly, there was urgent knocking at the door. A shrill woman's voice made me shudder. The two lovers on the bed startled. Mr. Kandai grabbed his clothes in a hurry. Madam Thanh Kim frantically clung to his arm. Don't leave me alone. Your wife will kill me. The handsome man stammered cowardly. I advise you to stay calm. He then gently climbed out the bathroom window and scurried away. My misguided woman had just managed to pull on a robe when the door burst open. A fierce, terrible beating, far worse than the impresario's rage years ago, erupted. I writhed in insane fury, deepening the fracture on my forehead. When Madame Thanh Kim was barely conscious, the plump, ferocious woman finally stopped and stormed out. In my agonizing pain, I prayed that Thanh Kim would hold on to life, even if her heart was shattered, like the scratches now crisscrossing her beautiful face. After a month of bed rest, cared for by a private nurse, Thanh Kim slowly recovered. I speak only of the physical wounds. The storms in her soul would surely never subside. Every night, she wept hysterically in the cold, empty house, with only me as her helpless witness. One beautiful day, Thanh Kim packed her bags, vacated the rented house, and left. I was touched by her love for me, as she hadn't abandoned me to an uncertain fate. The cart carrying me rolled through many streets. Finally, it stopped. Thanh Kim slowly opened the gates. A quaint French-style villa hidden in a quiet garden appeared. I was being set up when I almost cried out in shock upon seeing a man standing on the porch. It was Mr. Hungluck, the impresario of those days. He stared intently, seeming to recognize me. He yelled, "Why bring this cursed thing here? Get it out of my sight." I shuddered in fear, slipped from the worker's hands, and shattered into pieces amid his roaring threats. My broken fragments were loaded onto the cart and carried away. Only a heart-shaped shard remained, hidden deep in the clumps of angel hair grass. My sole consolation was occasionally seeing my mistress through the leaves, though I still had to endure her husband's constant shouting and cursing. Sometimes I saw the imprint of fingerprints on her cheek when she sat down to stroke the grass covering me. In my final days, I was constantly plagued by questions. Why couldn't a gentle, beautiful woman like Thanh Kim find happiness? Why didn't she choose Kandai as her life partner, despite loving him passionately? Why did she accept the life of a slave next to a wretched husband? I will never understand the world of humans, with all their joys and misfortunes. In the end, all my deductions were wrong. The older I get, the more deeply I realize this.